The Soul Chaperone, written by Jason M. Burns. Narrated by Jason M. Burns. Season 1, A Tough Nut to Crack. Episode 16, Jumping the Shark. In grade school, we visited the local Little Red Schoolhouse as part of a History of New Hampshire field trip. It's an annual rite of passage for all incoming third graders. We dressed up in colonial garb, my first incursion into the world of cosplaying, though not my last, and we were bussed around to a series of boring textile museums and long-forgotten landmarks. The educational tour culminated in a stop at the schoolhouse, which was actually the first built in Juniper, shortly after the town was incorporated and Barney the Bear was, presumably, shot. When it opened its doors in 1818, the single-room school serviced the growing brains of children of all ages, and all under one roof. That's where I am now. I'm standing in the doorway looking in on the schoolhouse. I don't turn around, but I know that if I did, there would be nothing there. This exists in my mind, not on Grant Street, where the original version has sat for over 200 years. Inside the schoolhouse, there are 3 rows of desks. These are the kinds of desks that are attached to their own chair with cold metal and built for butts far smaller than my own. So you can imagine my surprise when I count that 11 of the 13 desks are occupied with not a single colonial kid, but instead a who's who of individuals who have made my life hell more complicated or a more complicated hell. In the first row, there's Madame Paquita, Rod, Anna's idiot half-brother Polly, and my own Uncle Marco, who has been jockeying to take control of the house ever since Mom and Dad handed it over to me. We haven't said a word to each other since Anna's wake, and even then it involved the absolute bare minimum for what a proper set of condolences calls for. He continues to send his crew by on a weekly basis to keep the grounds well manicured. Some would see it as a kind gesture, but I see it for what it is. A passive-aggressive F you, or in this case, an F me. Seated in the middle row is Danny, Tommy Says, and Colby Jack, who looks downright ridiculous jammed into the tiny desk chair combo. There's also Jen something or other, owner and namesake of General Jen's General Store, and the haunted phonograph from Violet Brown's place, which sits studiously on the surface of the first desk at the front of the class. Tommy Says is holding a pocket knife, blade extended, and is using it to carve something into the back of the chair in front of him. When he sits back to admire his work, I can read what he has left behind. Tommy Says was here. The final row is only half occupied, and those who are seated are relative unknowns to me. There's Jensen Jasper, who until tonight I just assumed was a singing version of Frank Caliendo. Now I know that rock legends like Janis Joplin and Mama Cass are using her as a mystic microphone. The final presence in the classroom is a young Salvadorian girl I have seen around town but know nothing about, including her name. She is seated in front of Jensen, pecking away at the digital keypad on her cell phone. As I wander further into the schoolhouse, I question if I'm dead or not. Did someone usher me through my door and this is where it led me? What did my door look like? I bet it was the entrance to the treehouse Dad and I had built during the summer of 1992. I loved spending time up there. It wouldn't take much convincing for me to walk through that door if it meant I'd get to spend all of eternity in my old tree fort in the sky. But this is not that. No, this is a tourist attraction for locals looking to rekindle their romance with the good old days. The Little Red Schoolhouse is not my idea of heaven, and given who it's filled with, eat a bag of dingleberries, Tommy Says, it feels closer to hell. So what gives? Am I dead? And if so, where's Anna? Madame Paquita spots me contemplating my fate. She shimmies herself out of the prison-like confines of her desk and walks over to me, grabbing hold of my arm and pulling me aside. "I know it," she says with a sense of incriminating urgency. "I just knew you'd be wrapped up in this somehow." I look up at the fortune teller, confused. Why wouldn't I be wrapped up in my own death? She slaps the side of my head, though I feel nothing. "You're not dead, nitwit." "So, this is a dream?" I ask. "Nope," she says confidently. "This is a shared premonition. Everyone in this room is experiencing this at the exact same time. Some of us know what it is and can see it for that, while others probably feel like they're tripping balls." I look over the classroom. Those with their finger on the supernatural pulse seem somewhat at ease, but the ordinary folks like my uncle and brother-in-law are rattled to their cores. I can't really read the phonograph because it's a phonograph, and weirdly, the young Salvadorian girl appears downright delighted. Madame Paquita tugs on my arm, forcing me to return my attention on her. Someone brought us here. Someone extremely powerful. I state the obvious. Violet? Madame Paquita shakes her head. She's got juice, but not enough to pull this off. I shrug. Violet is the extent of my powerful enemies list. If someone else brought us here, it has nothing to do with me. Who says it has to be an enemy? She says as she releases her grip on my arm. Before I can answer, a white screen slowly descends down from its housing at the front of the classroom. As it fully extends, it covers the blackboard and goes taut. Behind us, resting on a platform just above the entrance, a projector powers up. The overhead lights dim. Looks like we're about to find out, Madame Paquita says as she pushes me toward one of the empty desks. I squeeze myself into the chair, having to suck in my belly in order to pack myself in. Tommy Says looks back at me and mumbles some incoherent first-person bullshit meant to be insulting. I take the higher road by holding my hand up as high as possible and offering him my middle finger. Madame Paquita delivers damning daggers in my direction, and I shrink down into my desk, tucking my finger away. It's not the first time I've gotten into trouble in a classroom. The projector delivers a loud beep, and then I hear a slide click into position. The once blank screen at the front of the classroom now has a cartoon moose on it. The moose is wearing a pair of twill tartan pants tapered at the ankle with matching suspenders to hold them up. Oddly, for a moose so obviously in tune with fashion, he is shirtless. The cartoon moose is waving at us. Hey, everybody! An unfamiliar voice, lo-fi and low-pitched, says from the speakers of the projector. My name is... Instead of hearing a name, a deafening screech rips through the room, forcing those of us with ears, I'm looking at you, phonograph guy, to cover them. I brought you all here today because time is not on our side, the cartoon moose continues. The days for lollygagging are over. The projector beeps again and a new slide replaces the first. Now we're all staring at what appears to be a photograph of downtown Juniper in the midst of a post-apocalyptic identity crisis. Buildings are on fire, dead bodies litter the streets, boutiques specializing in the business of year-round Christmas buying have been looted of their last assortment of pine cone ornaments. Soon this is what your world will look like if we are not to intervene, warns the projected voice. It is what could be, however, not what is. Only if we were to do nothing would this be the fate of not only Juniper, but of the world. Madame Paquita is the first of the class to speak up. What will cause this? Once again the projector beeps. The apocalyptic image on the screen is replaced by a picture of a New Hampshire license plate that reads H3Z-BAK. The collection of supernatural simpletons struggle to make sense of the personalized message. But having grown up in the Granite State, I've seen and interpreted my fair share of custom license plates. We New Hampshireites love when our registered letters mean something. He's back, I boast like a teacher's pet, fully prepared to accept my gold star. Yes, the voice responds. The old man returns. As is the pattern, the projector beeps and a new image appears on the screen. This time an early 1980s photograph of the old man of the mountain. I laugh out loud. Wait, this is all about a cheesy old rock formation turned tourist attraction? This is the old man as you know him, the voice scolds. This, however, is his true form. The projector beeps. Replacing the familiar outcrop with a face is the most horrific-looking portrait I have ever seen. Demonic and serpentine, the figure on the screen loosely resembles the beloved New Hampshire icon that I grew up associating with my home, only now it is adorned with horns as high as it is tall, and it is surrounded by mountains of the dead and dying. The old man's eyes are red like a ladybug's protective shell, and even though the image is a painting, those eyes cast judgment upon us all. His fingers spindly and tipped with gnarly nails, palm human heads like basketballs, which is even more unsettling when you consider that the old man has, easily, a dozen hands to do it with. The greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was not convincing the world that he didn't exist, the voice warns. He was hiding in plain sight and watching as you celebrated him. I look around the room. Everyone with eyes, again, I'm sorry to have to single you out, phonograph guy, stares up at the portrait of the old man with jaws agape. This has to be a dream. Lord knows I've been having enough of them lately. You, the chosen 13, are the only ones capable of stopping him, continues the voice. That is why you must do whatever you can to ensure the safety of each other until the day comes that the old man returns. If one of you falls, we all do. I do a quick head count of the room. I'm no accountant, but by my calculation, we're one cider donut shy of a baker's dozen. There's only 12 of us here, I say. The 13th, the final piece of the puzzle, is the one listening to this. Thank you for listening. For more information, visit thesoulchaperone.com.